Please grab your seats. And welcome to Bites and Insights, a celebration of Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, presented to you by the Multicultural BRG. Thank you. So before we get started, I'd like to thank our corporate sponsor, Nima Gordon, along with my fellow co-chairs and all the volunteers who work so hard to put this wonderful event together. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Caden, and I will be your host/moderator for today. And I just want to sincerely thank you guys for joining us, especially after a long holiday. The Bites portion is still being set up in the multipurpose room, and we'll invite you to grab an Asian-inspired snack box after we are done with today's discussion. So I have a fascinating panel with me today, and we'll be going through a series of questions regarding the AAPI experience and what it's like living and growing up in America. Hopefully, we'll have a few minutes at the end for a quick Q&A session with our guests, so please have your questions ready. And for the first part of our show, I'd like to go through a few educational fun facts about AAPI or AANHPI, how it came to be, why we celebrate it, and why it's so important for the underrepresented group to finally have the recognition we deserve. And did you know that AAPI Heritage Month didn't start off as a month? It was actually just a week-long celebration when it first began in 1978. And 2 members of Congress passed a joint resolution to observe Asian Pacific American Heritage Week, as it was called back then. The 2 individuals were Representative Frank Horton of New York and Senator Daniel Inouye of Hawaii, who recognized the need to honor the contributions of AAPI individuals in U.S. history. So the first Asian Pacific American Heritage Week was celebrated in 1979. And surely you're wondering why May? Well, May was chosen for the designated month for AAPI Heritage Month because of 2 major historical events. The first one being May 7th, 1843, which is when the first group of Japanese immigrants arrived in the United States. And the second being May 10th, 1869, which was when the Transcontinental Railroad was completed, largely thanks to work of Chinese immigrant laborers. And in 1992, President George H.W. Bush signed the bill that expanded the original week-long observance into a month-long celebration, and it was officially recognized as AAPI Heritage Month across the nation. So now AAPI is a broad term that represents more than 50 distinct ethnic groups. These include communities from East Asia, including China, Japan, Korea, South Asia, including countries like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, Southeast Asia, which includes Vietnam, Philippines, and Thailand, and the Pacific Islands, which include Hawaii, Samoa, Guam, and Fiji, and many others. The diversity within AAPI community is incredible, and with each group contributing its own unique cultural traditions and history. Originally, the term was just Asian American, or Asian Pacific American, but over the time, the term AAPI was coined to be more inclusive. It recognizes the distinct identities and cultures of both Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, who have often been grouped together in the past. And while AAPI Heritage Month certainly celebrates the rich cultural traditions of the community, it also honors the incredible contributions AAPI individuals have made to American society. This includes civil rights icons like Vincent Chin, who unfortunately was beaten to death in 1982, but this case sparked a major push for Asian American civil rights. And Grace Lee Boggs, a lifelong activist who worked in the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, and fought on issues of social and economic justice. We have pioneers in science, like Dr. Yi-Tseng Zhang, who solved a major problem in number theory, and David Ho, who was Times Magazine Man of the Year in 1996, known for pioneering and developing life-saving HIV treatments. And many of those in pop culture, like Bruno Mars, Keanu Reeves, athletes like Suni Lee from the women's U.S. Olympic gymnastics team. We have Andrew Yang and Kamala Harris, who both shaped American politics. It's also important to acknowledge the struggles faced by AAPI communities, such as discrimination, underrepresentation, and the model minority myth. These challenges have shaped the experience of AAPI individuals and communities throughout U.S. history. This month is not only a time to celebrate, but a time to reflect on the important role of the AAPI community has played in shaping cultural and social fabric of the United States. From science to civil rights, entertainment to business, AAPI individuals have made an ineradicable impact. So please join me for the rest of this hour to learn, appreciate, and honor diverse cultures and legacies that make up the vibrant AAPI community. And please allow me to introduce our panelists, AKA the Fantastic Four. First, we have Amy Zhang, Manager of Talent Acquisition at UNFCU, born and raised in New York. Proudly representing the Zennial Millennial generation, Amy brings nearly a decade of experience connecting people with purpose. With roots tracing back to Hong Kong, she blends cultural insight with a genuine passion for people. Outside of her work, she's a proud mom of two, and keeps things lively with her third kid, aka her husband, at home. Amy is the friendly face many candidates first meet at UNFCU, and she's loved every minute of helping others find where they belong. Next, we have Kush Sundani, Manager of Business Transformation at UNFCU. Born in India and living in the United States for over 35 years, Kush brings both global perspective and deep experience in driving meaningful change within organizations. Outside of work, he's a self-described homebody with old soul who enjoys random topics and binge-worthy TV shows, and most importantly, chasing after his energetic 2-year-old. We're thrilled to have him on the panel. Next, allow me to introduce Janice Ong, VP of Payments Experience at UNFCU. Originally from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Janice has called the U.S. home for nearly 14 years. She brings a global perspective to everything she does, which is very fitting since she's been to more countries than we can count. I think we're up to 54. Amazing. I'm jealous. Since joining UNFCU 2022, Janice has led a dynamic team of 34, expanding the global payments department to include both solutions and strategy. With a background that spans fintech startups and international remittance powerhouses, her expertise in global payments is as impressive as her passport. And when she's not streamlining payments, you'll likely find her on a yoga mat or experimenting in the kitchen. And hailing from the Philippines, now 19 years into his U.S. adventure, Anton Chua, the Manager of Asset Liability Management at UNFCU, with 13 years in the organization, starting in secondary marketing and now on the ALM team. He's a seasoned finance pro with a global outlook, half Filipino, half Chinese, 100% devoted dad of 3. Anton knows a thing or two about balancing both spreadsheets and snack times. He also coaches soccer in his spare time. Everyone get ready for bites of insights, and please give our panel a big round of applause. Oh, okay. You guys aren't ready. All right, first question goes to Amy. Is it on?
It's not on, but it'll turn on.
Okay. All right, so what are the unique challenges that AAPI immigrants and first-generation individuals face in comparison to later generations? And how can we support these communities better?
I'm going to start by saying that we're all unrehearsed, so what you'll hear is raw, genuine thoughts. But just thinking about that question, I am first generation. My parents came from Hong Kong. They moved here in the 70s, and I was born and raised in Sunnyside, Queens, just neighboring Long Island City. Before it was cool, I lived there. And I think one of the challenges I faced as the first generation was just trying to figure out the identity. Am I Chinese? Am I American? Do I like soy sauce chicken over rice, or do I like chicken nuggets with ketchup? I'm not sure. Wanting to fit in with friends at school, wanting to assimilate to what you see on TV. So that was an interesting experience as a child. And I think it's a little bit different now for my own children because I've grown up here. What I know is the American culture, and so in that way I relate to them much better. We have the same language. We have, I can explain my complex feelings in a better way, and I couldn't do that with my parents because I lost the language because I just didn't learn it. So that has been interesting.
No, same. Completely understood, because every time I come to, or when I introduce myself to like older Asian folk, and when you speak a little bit of the language, they automatically assume that you speak more of the language, and you definitely don't. So you're trying to like nod and smile, and I'm like, what did they say? It's definitely tough, especially growing up in America, I think, and it's just being a more complicated language. You know, it's not just the letters you can read, it's characters you have to kind of like memorize and practice over and over. And, yeah, no, that's definitely draining for sure. I appreciate that. Next question goes to Janice, Anton, and Kush. How do you navigate the balance between assimilation into mainstream American culture and preserving your AAPI heritage, especially in a professional or social space? Whoever feels that they're ready. Yeah.
You want me to go first? I mean, my experience from all three of them are very different because I only spent a very short period of time in America. Just under 14 years. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Malaysia. My heritage is China, because my parents are from China. But I spent a big part of my adult or university or college life, as you call it, back in Australia. So one thing I have to say is AAPI is very new to me, even though I've lived here for about 14 years. I started off in Dallas, Texas. They don't talk about AAPI there. I don't recall. Actually, I don't even recall hearing about AAPI until I moved to New York in 2017. And I was very fortunate to meet some people who are very big kind of advocates of AAPI. In fact, one of the ladies I met, she's Japanese. She was born in Chicago. But of course, as you were saying about the Japanese was the first one that came. So I think through her, I learned a lot about AAPI, and she's a true community leader. She's actually in her early 80s, and she's amazing. But for me, I think, you know, the way I've assimilated, I think, when I was back in Australia in university, you always have Asian students, and they tend to congregate among themselves. I didn't do that, to be honest. I mean, I have my Asian friends, my Malaysian colleagues. We play mahjong, we eat our Asian food, and all that, which is really, we cook, we go to Chinese restaurant, we speak our language, our dialect, Cantonese, Fujian, whatever. But I was very fortunate. I met this student, she's from Tonga. She's from Pacific Island. And through her, she got me to meet a lot more Australian students. So I think my journey has been quite interesting, well, different, because I took the liberty to actually assimilate myself with everybody. I didn't just stick to my own Asian group or Chinese group or Malaysian group. And I think everything starts from yourself, and you really have to put yourself out there. You have to really get to know people, you know, from your own culture, from different culture. And I think my Tongan friend was really, she was a social butterfly, so she really got me. And up till today, you know, I mean, and I've been to her country and all that. So I think for me is, you know, just put yourself out there. You know, don't look at, I never want to look at myself being different, you know, just because of my color, my skin color, how I look, my accent, whatever. It's okay. My view is, you know, and I think I always want to give the benefit of the doubt to all the people that I meet and connect with, because, you know, open up the curiosity. I'm curious about you, you're curious about me. It doesn't matter what color, slanty eyes, big eyes, whatever, you know, that's my personal view.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, absolutely. What about you, Kush?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, quite different from Janice. I mean, like Amy, my parents came here when I was 3, so I have no recollection of any prior identity. The better question is, how do I assimilate myself back to Indian culture, right, instead of the other way around? And it was just more natural, you know, coming here, and you know, parents throw you in public school, right? And that's the biggest character test that you can have in New York City. Grew up right here in Jackson Heights for the most part. And just, you know, like going through that process, all of this stuff about who's Asian American or African American or Pacific Islander, it was never really that common to talk about. So I never realized that I was the default other, right, in most conversations, or the default other in census or other forms that I, you know, fill out or whatever. So it was just quite interesting that only when I got older and you start, you know, hearing the news or talking to other people, and that you realize that, oh wow, there's a lot of different people who have just different cultures growing up, and very common values, but just different ways of how we would approach, going to a new country and all that. So I think, for like, my parents must have had a much harder time coming here. They were in their late 40s when they came. But they've always instilled in me that they're going to raise me as I'm in America, right?